Vegas, Phoenix, Miami.
Yeah.
I love how neither of us said Texas. Nobody dares to say Texas.
No. Welcome to the Money Lap. I kind of look up mid-taco bite. You don't know disappointment. Talking all things motorsports by two real drivers.
I appreciate being called a gritty driver.
With many, many years of experience.
We've had to do that other people didn't want to do.
The most dedicated host in the motorsports podcast world.
Weren't we supposed to have somebody come on our show as a guest?
No, we did it.
Did we?
Yes.
Yes, for our 1-year anniversary.
And we definitely know what we're doing. Remember, talk through your mic.
I'm talking past it like this.
Well, if you just pointed it differently. Never mind. Never mind.
Let's talk about race cars. God's
This
sakes.
is our worst show ever. Hello and welcome to the Money Lap. I'm Parker Kligerman, joined, like always, by my friend, Kyle. What? Your name's not Kyle Larson. You're Landon Cassill. You're not looking at me.
What's going on?
There he is. I was just trying to get your attention a little bit. Hey, this is our show where we talk about all motorsports. Today, we're going to dive into the Cup Series and how, even though he's the best, there may be a couple ways you can beat Kyle Larson at Homestead-Miami. In the Xfinity race, we did see one of those ways. We will dive into myself being on the broadcast and it being remote for all you haters out there and people love to discuss this and are freaking out on the internets. Let me quell some of your fears. And some insight as to why Liam Lawson is struggling at Red Bull and more proof that Max Verstappen is some alien from another dimension, which we all probably knew. Plus, much, much more from around the motorsports world. But Landon, just real quickly, as we've said last week, we're going to move the PR lap to later in the show for all your reviews and that sort of thing. But I have to do some promo right here off the top. Will you give me this time for a second?
Okay.
All right. Thank you. So on my personal YouTube channel, Parker Kligerman on YouTube, I just released this very large video that was a massive undertaking. And it stems from the idea of all of you out there who watch motorsports, possibly who listen to this show and watch this show, who think, when you're watching NASCAR F1, how hard could that be? They're just driving a car. Well, for all of you out there, and especially you internet commenters, I decided to try and see if we could give you a chance to prove that. So on my YouTube channel, we let some total amateurs go up against me in a series of driving challenges to see if they could beat me. If they beat their competitors, they win some money. But if they beat me, they win double the money. You could win up to $5,000 of my own money. It's on my YouTube. Please go check that out after you've watched and listened to this whole show. But that's Parker Kligerman on YouTube. We'll put a link in the description. But I need you all to go check it out because it needs to do well, hopefully, and we can do more of them. There's endless scenarios we can do with that in terms of changing the car, the tracks, the challenges, different scenarios that race car drivers are put in and try to mimic those. So I've got a lot of ideas, but I need this first one to do well. So please go watch it. Was that good?
Did you learn anything?
I've learned a lot. Yeah. I learned that some people can be freakishly good and others don't quite have an knack for it. Is that surprising?
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of that and being freakishly good, we said we'd dive into the Cup Series. We'll do that right off the top. The car that looked the best, the driver that looked the fastest at Homestead-Miami for probably the second or third time in the next gen era was Ryan Blaney in the 12 car. But he had an absolute massive engine explosion. The only way to sum it up is what I tweeted, which was the old Steve Matchett kablamo, or David Hobbs. I can't remember which one did it. But that thing absolutely exploded. That's the second time he's had an engine issue in 3 races. Kind of unusual in this day and age of reduced horsepower and, the longevity of these engines and how you have to run them for multiple races. To see engines sort of detonate themselves like his did was, I don't know, it just felt unusual to see.
What does SpaceX call it, or Elon Musk? An unscheduled disassembly?
Yes.
Rapid unscheduled disassembly.
Rapid unscheduled.
You brought up a really good point that we don't, it seems like this is something not to be seen in this era of reduced horsepower, reduced RPM. What's happening to these engines?
I don't know. They didn't seem to be. We don't know if they're linked yet. I'm sure more information will start to come out. But I just found it interesting that, the engine builders are continuing to push in some respects, right? But they are in such a severe box. There is a lot of shifting happening with these motors, right? And
Mhm.
if you watched the race on Sunday, you notice as tires fell off, sometimes they'd start shifting down to turn 3 and that sort of thing. So that can put stress on the motor. You're trying to run at higher RPMs the whole time because the way the transaxle works in these cars, it sort of secures the rear by being at a higher RPM. So that's something you'll do as you start to lose the tires to have better throttle response on the exit. You can do that in this car because it is 5 gears compared to the 4 that we've seen in stock cars in the past, and it is a sequential box. So maybe some of that. But I mean, for one car, considering Roush Yates engines supplies tons of cars, just sort of odd. I don't know if it's just unlucky or specific to
Mhm.
the driver. I'm sure that information will come out, but I just found it odd to see.
Yeah, I mean, you could have the driver doing something, which makes the most sense with all the shifting that's going on. Um, but it's not to just put blame on the driver. I mean, Blaney knows what he's doing. But maybe it's possible that he's running too high of an RPM for too long. I don't know.
Wow. What a technical breakdown.
But sorry, if you're trying to go the driver route, that would be it. You know what I mean? Too early a downshift, too late of an upshift. Maybe he's, on some of the longer runs or something, maybe he's not even going to fifth gear. Maybe he's just leaving it in fourth for too long. Phoenix is another track, right, where you could do that because a lot of times on the backstretch at Phoenix, you could just leave it in fourth gear.
Yep. You'll hear him touch the
Um,
rev limiter, which a rev
yeah,
limiter
just
is
touch the rev limiter.
tough on a motor.
So if I were to try to evaluate, what Blaney is doing compared to the other guys, those guys are probably digging through the data and just looking at average RPM, to see if Blaney's carrying more RPM longer. Earlier, is he downshifting too early? Is he holding RPM too late before he's upshifting? But I wouldn't bet very much money on that being the factor. Then they're probably look at the engine tuner. Maybe there's a process that's happening or something. But that's highly unlikely, I would imagine. So
If
I
I
think it's
had
probably just charge it to the game. Tough,
yeah,
really tough luck.
charge it to the game, I like that. If I had to surmise, I would assume, they find some issue batch wise or that sort of thing. But to your point, I'm not putting the blame on him without more information. I just, when I see these things and you see a trend, you start to say, okay, what's the common denominator here compared to other teams? The driver has a huge effect on how the motor operates. So, if they are to find nothing else, then that's sort of internally wrong or some sort of batch issue that somehow ended up in his car twice. Um, that's the path you'll end up going down. But I just found it odd, interesting this day and age to see that sort of thing. But it did leave the race a little bit more wide open where we got more players at the front. Alex Bowman, who won the pole, emerged in stage 3.
Mhm.
Bubba Wallace emerged. Kyle Larson, of course, rose to the
S-
front as he
Speaking
always
of
does there.
emerging,
Oh, what's that?
um, there is a new promo code has emerged at spoilerdiecast.com. Promo code MONEYLAP
Oh,
gets you 5% off the whole month of March, which is almost over. So hurry up and get your orders in and be eligible to win a Parker Kligerman signed diecast. And you can actually buy Parker's official Daytona Win asterisk shirt exclusively on spoilerdiecast.com. If you're a racing enthusiast looking for high quality diecast and apparel, look no further than spoilerdiecast.com, one of the fastest growing companies in the industry. Parker, what sets them apart? Well, let
please
me
tell
tell you.
me.
Spoiler Diecast prides themselves on exceptional service. All their orders ship either same or next day. You get your hands on your favorite products in no time. They've got over 1,100 products currently in stock, officially licensed NASCAR, dirt, sprint cars, IndyCar, F1. They're race fans just like us. SpoilerDiecast.com. Use promo code MONEYLAP to squeeze that last 5% out of this commoditized industry, but exceptional service.
Mm.
These guys are like, this truly is my childhood memory of the basement mall diecast NASCAR supplier. I used to just go out and spend hours in these collectible stores. Now you can do it online at spoilerdiecast.com.
That was lovely. It's amazing. I'm also wearing their hat. So if you like this hat, probably on spoilerdiecast.com as well. As you mentioned, if you use promo code MONEYLAP right now, you get, as long as we're still in March, you get into the running to win one of my number 48 Spike Light Coolers diecast in 2024. They also have my Truck Win diecast on there, which reached minimum order quantity a couple weeks ago already. So
did not reach minimum height.
No, it didn't reach minimum height,
Fortunately.
which is what the T-shirt also on there shows. The height sticks that we won, and also only won that race for roughly 45 minutes. So, which Lewis Hamilton's feeling the same pain of being disqualified from a race for the width of a credit card, essentially. So that's.
I just saw a question.
What's that?
Am I on the right mic? Does it sound right?
Now you are.
Does it sound right? I've been it that way the whole time. Wait, or was that okay? Keep going. Sorry.
That was forever ago, but it's okay.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Keep going.
Hey, now you're on the right mic. We're off to a great start on this episode of Money Lab. Thank you all for joining us, watching and listening.
So when do we get to make Homestead the finale?
Well, I was just going to get into that. So we talked a little bit about how the race was unfolding, but one of the things, the overarching theme of this weekend, and I saw some reports that maybe you could already see on their website, the Homestead finale, Homestead being the finale or something like that, which I wasn't sure if that was confirmed or not. But the thing about this racetrack is it is the perfect stock car racing track right now, in my eyes, especially at the 1.5 mile size, speed, tire fall off, lane choice. I don't know. Outside of Kyle Larson, who probably has a massive advantage in his ability to run the wall here, although we've seen Tyler Reddick be just as good at it. It just seems to me like you have so much control of your own destiny at this racetrack that it truly, to me, especially in this next gen era where the cars are so close, the driver can still make a massive difference here. And to me, that is the perfect place for a championship finale. Now, also, I have a severe amount of bias because for all the years you and I went down there for it being the finale and all the years I watched it being the finale, and, I'm sort of nostalgic for that. There's also a bit of like this feeling with the season and how long it is in NASCAR where you start to get towards the fall and the races start to get cold in certain places. And then you go to Homestead-Miami and it's warm, tropical, even in November. And it's just a great vibe. And sort of in a poetic way, the season starts in Florida at Daytona and it ends in Florida in Miami. I just think it's the perfect place for the finale. It should be where it's at. The crowd this weekend didn't look large, looked a little sparse in areas in the grandstands. That's not a good sign. But I think given the chance to be the championship finale, you could boost those numbers for sure. And it would be a lot of excitement and enthusiasm for it.
You just stole my heart.
What's that?
You're absolutely right. I agree with everything you just said. I love Phoenix and I love Phoenix for the finale. I don't hate Phoenix as a finale championship race as much as I think everybody else does. And I also think Phoenix carries some of those same qualities that you described, where it's like end of the season, it's beautiful weather, it's a beautiful place. Maybe it's not tropical, but Phoenix is a beautiful market. But yeah, there's something about Homestead. It's 2-hour flight from Charlotte, tropical weather. I don't have to repeat everything you said. I agree completely. The one thing I wish about Homestead is, and this is maybe an impossible thing to wish for other than really, really old race venues, but I wish it was about 30 minutes closer to Miami.
Yeah, I know.
That's the one thing. And I would imagine that is NASCAR's justification for moving it from that market, that they, the Phoenix championship race, the racetrack is still kind of outside of Phoenix, but it's a little bit closer to the city than Homestead is to Miami. It's not horrible, but it's an hour drive. It's a solid hour.
Yeah.
If you're staying in Miami. So I do wish Homestead was a little bit closer to Miami, but I don't know. There was kind of a weird leak over the weekend that maybe seems like it might move back, but
Yeah, I saw that. And I think there was a lot of people saying like it sounds like it will. There's a lot to figure out in terms of the funding behind that, and it sounds like the city can't put up the money, so they've got to come up with some other way to get creative. Whereas Phoenix puts a lot behind it. There's a lot of advertising in the airports and
Right.
throughout the city when the championship finale is there, and they do a great job selling it out. I will say the facility at Phoenix is one of the top facilities in all of NASCAR. You know, they did that huge renovation, and it
Right.
just it definitely
and
feels like a
Homestead is
championship.
not.
Yeah, it feels like a championship finale. Homestead is not quite there, but you know, with a little polish and spit shine, I'm sure it could come back. You know, they could make it to that level of facility. I will say, like when you're there on a practice qualifying day for just Cup or for Trucks and Xfinity, that place does feel a little bit like an SCCA club race at times if there's no fans around and there's no like banners and stuff and advertising, which a couple times I referenced in the last 2 years being there like on the Friday before Cup gets there. And
Yep.
it's just like a
It's
ghost
like
town.
nothing's happening yet.
Yeah, nothing's happening. You're like, this is a little sparse. So
Yeah.
I think they can.
But in terms of racetrack and market is perfect, right?
Yes.
Miami is amazing. Great market. One of the best in the country. Racetrack, amazing. Best on the schedule. But it could be lost in those details because where Phoenix lacks racetrack, it equals in weather, it equals in market, and it's obviously better than the promotion side. They've done a good job of executing.
Yeah, I think
if it was
go
real
ahead.
quick, if it wasn't Phoenix or Homestead, this is a fun hypothetical.
Where should it be?
Where should it be?
You got to think about weather, so you got to be pretty restrictive there.
It's funny when you put it that way that you do realize there aren't a ton of options.
No, there's not.
Vegas.
I was gonna say Vegas. Yeah, you could do Vegas, which would still be warm enough in November. Rain is not a huge issue. I mean, I think that's one reason Miami became a bit of an issue is the afternoon storms and the timing of when these races now run later in the day. Right. So you always run into that issue, like the 2015 Jeff Gordon's finale? We had a rainstorm.
Even Atlanta would be iffy to have in November.
Well, that would be cold.
Yeah, it just would be too cold.
Yeah, and you can't end at a super speedway. You can't do that. So you're kind of in a bind. I think Vegas is probably the only one. I see people that want to rotate it. I don't know if it needs to rotate as much as it should just pick a place. Be good.
Well, it's funny. It's you got my wheels turning now. It's like rotate it between where? Vegas, Phoenix, Miami.
Yeah.
I love how neither of us said Texas. Nobody dares to say Texas.
No. Talk about facilities. Need some serious spit shine on that one.
Is Charlotte too far north in November?
Charlotte could work. It could be cold. I think you also go there already when they have a big race. I like the idea that the championship finale is a place you also only go once. I hate when we're at Phoenix to start the year and everyone's like, "Oh, this is gonna get ready for the championship. Gotta get ready for the championship here. Oh, guys, you're gonna learn something for the championship finale." I hate that. No. Just go to the damn place once. Like if it's the championship finale place, we only
clip
go
every
there
time
once.
you've said that on a broadcast.
Yeah. I don't. If you actually
Thanks, Marty. And yes, so Ryan Blaney and his team have been getting ready for the championship in November. They know that the notes that they're going to take home this weekend in Phoenix are going to be valuable notes coming back 9 months from now. Back to you in the booth.
Well done. You'll have to clip it. What do we need? That's it right there. Although I have not done that. If you go back and watch the CW broadcast from Xfinity last couple weeks ago, I would say
that's right, Jeff. And earlier I was talking to Justin Allgaier and his team, and they said that this is really just a test run for them in the championship weekend.
Sweet Jesus,
November.
shut up. Shut up. I did not mention it once because I hate that. I can't stand it. I think it's the most annoying thing to hear. It's multiple-fold. One, I just think yes, there's some credence to a place that you run well at and you feel good about, no doubt. But the second part
I'm
is
taking this conversation everywhere. Can I just tell you another one that happened this weekend that made me? So somebody had a flat tire in the Xfinity race. I can't remember who it was. And Jeff Burton. I'm sorry.
Jeff Burton.
No, I'm sorry. Jamie McMurray.
Yep.
Said, well, you gotta go slow, don't rip out the crush panels and everything. And I thought to myself, How many times has that been said on a NASCAR broadcast? Well, the reason they're going slow with the flat tire is so it doesn't shred apart the fenders and the crush panels.
Yeah.
How many times has that been said on a NASCAR
Well,
broadcast?
having had a
It
flat
has
tire,
to keep being said too, by the way.
well, you got to keep saying it because you get new, different viewers. You got to, hey, they say in TV, repeat your best stuff because there's always a different audience. The other thing is,
Well, that's
it's
why,
funny you bring
we're
that up.
practicing Phoenix. It's for the championship race weekend.
Shut up.
You got to
Shut
get
up.
ready.
You just shut your mouth when you're talking to me. So when I was at Sebring 12 hour and I had that left front go down, I'm driving slow and they're like, hey, buddy, drive slower so you don't rip up the tire. And I'm like, I wanted to key the radio and be like, yeah, heard that every damn week for my entire life. You shut it. You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
That's good.
All right.
That's
So
good.
anyway, I think we're in agreement. That would be a great place for a finale. Josh, I don't know where else you could go. Maybe Vegas. I can't think of anywhere else.
The Auto Club short track.
Or the Auto Club short track. Vegas would make sense, except once again, that's way outside the city. And you also, similar timing would run into F1 with their street course, which is just 2 or 3 weeks later. So I don't think you want to run into that. Like when we're there in October, everything there is about F1. They're already building the F1 track. Every bit of advertising and merchandise and all the hotels is all F1. So I don't know. You don't want to fight that.
It's crazy to think that in 2 years, you're basically suggesting that F1 basically stole that opportunity from NASCAR to be able to use Vegas as a championship venue.
Yeah, until that craters falls apart. Now, if you use that as a chance to be there together on the street course, whoa.
Ooh, that would be good.
That would be good. Except you'd be second fiddle, so now I don't know. I don't think it should be a championship finale. If you're doing your championship finale, you got to be there alone. You got to be the top dog.
I think that we pretty much we just determined, unless you can come up with a better option, that Homestead and Phoenix are the 2 championship venues. There are none. There are no other championship venues.
No, can't go to Bristol.
Can't go to Bristol. Can't go to Daytona. Can't go to Talladega. You could go to Atlanta, but like, yeah, that's a stretch. People are gonna complain about Super Speedway being a championship. They could take the restrictor plates off them and go to Atlanta for the championship race.
Hot damn! Now that would be cool. And it would be different.
We don't have to dwell on that. We're not going to Texas.
Nope. It's got to be an oval. It can't be a road course.
At least in our current frame of mind.
I mean, it's not going to be Kansas. Yeah, I think the closest I came up to was Darlington. But we go there so much already.
Championship racetrack, yes.
Yeah.
Everything else, no.
No.
Exactly.
Facility, big no. Yeah. If you've ever been to the bathrooms in the Xfinity Series garage, which have been there since probably before the Wood Brothers started racing in NASCAR, you would know that that's not a championship level facility. Needs lots of help, lots of love.
Well, then maybe, hey, here's where the alternating is like, okay, then alternate it between Phoenix and Homestead. You got 2 great venues, East and West Coast. Let's just go back and forth. Great idea.
And don't go to it twice. If you're gonna make it the championship place, you only go there once.
Ooh, unless it's Homestead, you can go twice.
No,
we should race Homestead 6 times.
But Phoenix, yeah, and I know, but Phoenix actually basically sells out both weeks, so they definitely would go there twice. I don't want to hear about working for the championship. I hated when they were going to Chicago and it was the same tire as Homestead, and everyone's like, "This is a good test for Homestead." Like, shut up.
I'm not taking the bait on that one.
We've talked.
Let's talk about the race. Let's talk about the race. Because I do have some good thoughts.
Yeah. So one of the things I wanted, so we can kind of fast forward through the race a little bit in terms of what happened. We talked about Blaney's engine blowing up. But as we got to stage 3, the race started to really take shape. And one moment around one lap 192 was interesting. This went on for about 10 laps. That's Bubba Wallace leading, Kyle Larson trying to get by him. And actually Blaney's still in here because his engine blowing causes the caution.
You do this segment because of my tweet?
This is because of your tweet, and I thought this was really interesting. So you got Larson running on the wall, Bubba Wallace doing what he does so well. He does the same thing at Kansas, which is he doesn't run on the wall. He runs the high groove, but he runs about a half a car width to a car off of the wall and still makes it work. Now, as I say that, he's right on the wall, but he's still a little bit off of it compared to the 5 at times. I don't know how he does this, but he creates speed doing it. And it made it really tough for Larson to get by, which you referenced, which I thought was so funny, which I'll let you take from here, was if you're going to stop Kyle Larson, this is one way to do it.
Well, I don't know if you're gonna stop Kyle Larson, this is one way to do it. I just find it funny. I chuckled to myself because like I think I tweeted something about the kryptonite to a guy that running the fence, running 3/10 faster than field up against the fence is simply just running in front of him a foot off the wall. And and then I think I texted you in a private message where I was like, millions of dollars of training, research, sim time has been invested in Kyle Larson and his perfection of running the fence at Homestead. He isn't just good at it for no reason, right? Like this guy works at it. All for a couple tenths of speed, right? Just to be blocked by Bubba running a foot off the wall in front of him. Like literally running the antithesis of how to properly run the top Bubba is doing, and it completely blows away, because of the dirty air.
Yeah,
Just completely takes away Kyle's advantage.
and
He
it's
can't pass on the bottom. Track's too
Nope.
slick. Tires are too worn. It's like it's I don't know. Made me chuckle. And
it is funny.
it is funny. But it led me to a second thought that I didn't tweet
Okay.
and I hadn't shared with you guys. So I'm just kind of flying this out here. So, I made a tweet earlier in the week about peak engineering, and we could talk about that. But like that's down a separate track. Where this thought is, the Cup Series right now is so competitive. Like the field is so close. And a lot of this is due to the next gen, right? Because the cars are so similar. The parts and pieces are all manufactured. Nothing's getting developed. You got a lot of money being spent on engineering, but like the cars are all capable of the same speed. Does that make sense? Like, just agree with that for a second, and then I'll make my next statement. The cars are all capable of the same speed. Anybody on their best day can go the same speed. John Hunter Nemechek is really capable of that same speed as Kyle Larson's car, for the most part. So, as a result, what we're looking at right now in the Cup Series is a game of execution. It is
I don't
like
think you're breaking any new ground with this thought, but go on.
it is maybe not. I don't even know if this is the first time. Oh, well, maybe this isn't even the first time we've talked about it. But it's like this is purely a game of execution on pit road, on restarts, down to those details, because you can't just give up and then recover. You can't just like they're getting down to those hundredths of a second where it's like now every little detail of execution matters so much more than the last. Wasn't that groundbreaking, huh?
Well, to your point, if you look at certain periods of runs in the Cup Series right now at any given race, you will have periods of time where every car is running within a couple hundredths of lap time, right?
Mhm.
Especially at places that are more single grooved, that sort of thing. Phoenix is one place that comes to mind. I mean, you'll get 30 laps into a run, and you'll look on the leaderboard, and they'll all cross the start finish line, and barring some outliers who maybe had an issue or ran severely into traffic, they're all running the same 10th bracket. It's unbelievable. And it's never been this way. And to your point, some of the things that people talk about with rivalries that happened in the past and 20 years ago and 30 years ago, if you go look at those time periods, there was time periods where maybe those two drivers who were in a rivalry, quote unquote, were 3 to 5 tenths faster than the field. So no matter what happened, they got back to the front to continue that rivalry. And I've actually been in those moments like in ARCA and Ches and I with Justin Lofton. We were the two fastest cars. No matter what happened, we found ourselves back at the front. So it becomes a rivalry at the front of the field. With the parity you have in the Cup Series right now, that is fewer and far between, because you have where John Hunter Nemechek's team might hit it on any given weekend, but there's not just him. There might be 10 of those. There might be 15 of those teams that just figure it out and are fast on that given weekend for a reason, right? So, and on the flip side, you might have your favorite team show up and just not have it that weekend. They just purely missed it, and it can be by very small amounts, but that small amount being that's the difference between first and 30th sort of thing. So I do agree with you.
Now,
I think that's where
if you brought that concept to John Hunter Nemechek right now,
cut me off. That's fine. Go on.
Sorry, well, I thought you were done. if you brought that concept to John Hunter Nemechek right now, he's going to disagree because he knows very intimately the limitations of his team in his car.
Yeah.
Right. And he's gonna be like, yeah, that's fine, but I know that we're a 15th or 25th place car. Right. However, the field is still so much tighter that team, which maybe used to be capable of a natural top 5 finish on a cookie cutter track once in every 100 starts, is now capable of a natural top 5 finish on a cookie cutter start once in every 25 starts. Right?
Yep.
Like once a year, he's going to get his day, where it used to be once every 3 years that team would get their day. And it is just mixed up it has condensed this whole field down to where every little detail about execution, like literally every single weekend now, you can look at the leaderboard, the last 20 laps of the race, and there's somebody in the top 10 that in previous years we would have said, oh my gosh, look at them having a top 10 day. Right? Whether it's Michael McDowell, Justin Haley, Zane Smith, Todd Gilliland, like John Hunter Nemechek. What you used to like make a huge deal about a team like that running top 10, where now it's like every single weekend somebody is represented in the top 10 of those groups.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
AJ Allmendinger got 7th this weekend, for Colleague, which he
ran there all day.
Yeah, and he was fast at Vegas too. So like that's just they had it. They hit it. It's and they showed up and executed.
Yeah, and maybe not every week.
Yeah.
He might be 31st next week, right? He might be 25th next week. And that might be where the team finishes in owners points. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And that might be where the team actually ends up landing on the pecking order of funding and manufacturer support and, yada, yada, yada. Right? But on their best day looks like a top 5. Where 5 years ago, their best day was a top 20.
Yeah. Well, my buddies at Racing Insights give out this report, which ranks all the teams across a variety of different metrics and such recently. And it is pretty interesting, especially when you look at the speed category, where the number one car in speed this over the year right now is William Byron. And it actually reflects in his average finish, which I think he has the best average finish in the series right now. So I found that kind of interesting. But like if you look at who would you say is the 25th fastest car in the series, that'd be Michael McDowell. To your point, right?
Yeah.
AJ Allmendinger, who finished 7th, is the 14th average speed car in the series.
Interesting.
Yeah. So it definitely, that he took a 14th place average speed car
McDowell,
on that day.
hold on a second.
They got 7th.
McDowell
Yep.
is the 25th fastest car in the Cup Series.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Is that what you just said?
Yep. As of this season so far, yes.
Did he not qualify in the pole last week?
He did. That's the great point. Like that's
like when was the last time the 25th fastest car in the Cup Series had a pole?
That it before the next gen era, I'll tell you when. It didn't effing happen.
Maybe in the 90s. I'm curious what that looked like in the 90s, because I did look at these stats a long time ago, and a similar way to look at it was gosh, I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, like the farthest car back in points with a win.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the 90s and early 2000s, it was a lot deeper, like the Jimmy Spencer era.
Yeah.
Guys
Craven winning in 03.
Yeah, like guys that were 23rd, 25th, 26th in points getting a win.
Joe Nemechek.
Just having their day.
Yep. Johnny Benson, the Valvoline 10 car winning a race.
Right.
Which was like unheard of at the time.
Right. You just have to dig back and take a look and see where they were at in points. But that's another, that's an interesting stat there, is the 25th fastest car in the Cup Series. But yet he had a pole last week.
And John Hunter Nemechek, who's top 20 in points so far this year, which is a big vault up from being the lowest in the series last year. He would disagree with you saying he has the 25th fastest car, because according to the Racing Insights rankings, he's the 31st fastest car in the series.
Yeah.
So far, but that goes back to execution. Has executed, right?
Right. He executes. They're fast at the right time. They're fast on the right day. right? And to sum back up what I said, right? Like the thesis of what I'm saying is your best day is better than it used to be. Michael McDowell, you're the 25th fastest car in the field, but if you hit it, you can win a pole.
Yep. Pretty crazy.
So
Just
the speed is there, right? It's all about executing.
It's pretty amazing. And like to give you another stat, they have a passing stat versus defense stat. The number one passer in the NASCAR Cup Series so far in 2025 is.
Let me guess.
Oh yeah, guess it.
Let me guess.
Okay.
Number one passer in 2025. Define a pass. It says like for position, quality pass.
Yeah, it's gonna be a pass for position, and then they hold it probably for a lap or so, something like that. So I don't know the exact. I didn't.
Is it Larson?
The exact breakdown. It is not Larson.
No,
it is not.
Number one passer. Who is it?
Ryan Blaney.
Really?
Yeah.
He's been fast.
Mm-hmm. And he's effectively passing people. Number two, be Christopher Bell. Kyle Larson, 12th.
Really?
In passing ability. Yeah.
Interesting.
But number two in defense. He holds people off. He's good at that.
Larson is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Who's number one in defense?
Number one in defense would be the fastest car in the series and the number one on restarts, and that would be William Byron. The 24 car. Yeah. Pretty wild stats. We can dive deeper in those sometime. Dead last across all stats, Cody Ware. Struggle. Not quite hitting it this year. So it's fun to look at that stuff though. Let's go to another moment in the race. This was kind of the pivotal moment, the moment where the lead changed under 10 to go. And that is Alex Bowman has the lead, but Kyle Larson on a long run, he's gifted one of the longest runs of the day, gets to the wall, starts using it effectively, starts to chase down Alex Bowman. And what does Alex try to do? Before I go further, what does he try to do that Bubba Wallace didn't when he was holding off Larson?
He tried to do what Larson was doing.
And he does it, but not very long and not successfully because he ends up hitting the wall far too hard because it's really hard to adjust to running the wall when you aren't in sync with running the wall against probably the best guy running the wall. Now, in his defense, maybe that's his only ability to hold him off. But as Bubba proved in that earlier run, 60 laps before this, 60 or 7 laps before, maybe your best chance to hold him off is to not change what you're doing and just keep the air dirty enough that when he gets close enough, he can't use the wall effectively.
Maybe. I don't know if I could have counted on that. I don't hate what Bowman did there. You know, if he adjusted himself, tried to get a little more speed out of it. It's either that or you know that Larson's going to get to you. And I don't know if Bowman saw any of the moments that I saw, because I'm not sure where he was at on the track in relation to Larson, but I was watching it on TV, so I had a different perspective.
You had a little different view, a little more global view.
I had a little different view than Bowman did. I was amazed at some of the slide jobs and the ways that Larson almost had it. It's almost like he found a systematic approach to just making a pass in this car on this track when your opponent is ripping the fence up in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
He had a few really big moves. And if I'm Bowman and I saw any of those, which I'm sure he did because it's not just Larson, it's everybody else. Bowman probably could feel like, I know that Kyle's going to catch me. I know he's going to get to my bumper. There's 10 laps to go. I'm really only going to be able to dirty air him for a couple laps.
Yep.
Kyle's going to have 3 to 4 good laps. 10 attempts at throwing a haymaker on me. And he's going to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he must not have felt like he must have felt like if I can just pick up another tenth and a half by getting another couple inches closer to the wall, maybe that's how I can win this race instead of feeling like I have to go head to head with Kyle Larson. So obviously it didn't work out for him and he hit the fence, but
yeah,
I don't know if that was the subconscious decisions that he was making in his mind as he was pushing and pushing and pushing and trying to get that extra little bit, I don't hate it. I mean, I just, I'm not judging that.
Right.
Bummer. But.
And I don't fault him for trying. Probably would have done the exact same thing.
Well, but you're suggesting that the flip side is
you do what you're doing.
You stay conservative, you stay foot off the wall. You know that he's going to catch you, but you bet on the fact that like, hey, I'm going to stuff him with dirty air for at least 3 laps.
Yep.
Right? And he's going to get stuck for at least 3 or 4 laps. And now there's going to be we're going to go from 10 laps to go to 6 laps to go. Can I hold him off for 6 laps?
Right.
I don't know.
I think that.
Think so.
Well, I think a little bit of that, plus just give yourself the longest time period. Now, Larson was catching at such a fast rate. I'm sure he's seen that and thinking, I've got to do something different here because he's going to blow by me. And if he watches it back and looks at what Bubba was doing when he was holding off and others held off Larson when they were just sort of running that foot off the wall, does that give you enough time to get the 3 to 4 laps to go? He makes that Hail Mary or that haymaker, gets the run off the top, flies below, slides up, but it still gives you the chance to then drive back by him and fight him, or drive back by him or get beside him again and sort of try and, hurt that run a little bit. Like, it gives you a little longer chance than trying to do what he does, knowing he's the best at doing it. Now, I'm sure Alex Bowman's going to say on his best day running the wall, he can be as good as Kyle Larson, and that's why he's a NASCAR Cup Series driver, and that belief and that thought process is what enables him to be there fighting Kyle Larson at the front with 7 laps to go in the NASCAR Cup Series. Like, absolutely. And I agree with that. And I wholeheartedly support that belief and thought process, but you weren't running there for 20 laps before. He's now gotten you done 20 laps of feeling it and understanding it and knowing he's the best. Use your strengths to your advantage for as long as you can and make him go around you. Right. But when he did that and went to the wall, he didn't quite stabilize the gap and then hits it and just opens up that ability for Larson to take the lead and you're done. Right. So that's why I felt like it was worth looking at that and dissecting that decision-making, because it is a tough place to be. And I've been in those same situations where you have been doing something that works and suddenly it's not. Someone else has found something and you have that choice of, do I adjust to what they're doing and probably throw away even 2 laps where I'm giving up more time than I would because I'm trying to adjust to this different line, right? While at the same time, then hoping I figure it out to then hold them off, or you stick with what you're doing and it just buys you a little bit more time for them to burn up their stuff more, to maybe that Larson hits the wall trying too hard to get to you for another lap, so on and so forth, right? So I just think it's such an interesting thing because you don't run into that a lot of places. You're not going to have places where somebody is known to be so good at doing one thing that a lot of others can't, right? And if we wanted to break down what Larson does so well, Jay McMurray talks about this a lot on the Xfinity broadcast and a lot of the research he's done. And I know, and you talked to me about looking at what Larson does running the wall, and that is his ability to have just an immense entry speed on the wall that others can't. And the reason that is so difficult for those who have never taken a race car and tried to put it within an inch over the wall and running around with the tires falling off is that it's not every lap you have to adjust your your middle corner speed and your throttle application and brake point and all that stuff. It's every single corner. Right. And so his ability to, one, understand exactly what the level of speed is to bring in there that's higher than most, and to be able to attach it to the wall and trust that the car is going to have enough grip as it rides the wall, that it's not going to jump the cushion and get into it. And 2, be able to adjust corner by corner what that speed is, what that brake application is just unbelievable. And it's really a specific talent that he has that just, I don't know what it comes from, if it's the dirt stuff, whatever, but it's a really, really amazing thing to watch from the outside, having done it, to know what the complexity is of what he's doing and how he does it. And then having tried to replicate it and be like, that is difficult. Like, I have to be at my 10/10 and on it to mimic that same speed running the wall.
Did you see when the camera cut to Jeff Gordon after Bowman hit the fence?
I know you texted about it, but I missed the exact facial expression. What would you wanted to reference?
Did anybody else notice like that weird look? The look on his face.
100%.
It was like an awkward smirk.
I thought to myself, he was looking over to Justin Haley's pit box and thinking to himself,
I don't know. Somebody in the comments, let me know. I'm not going to expand any further on that. Somebody in the comments, let me know if you saw what I saw when the camera cut to Jeff Gordon.
Are we going back down the path?
We can talk about it. We can talk.
Bowman's
we can talk
ride
about it.
Is in jeopardy, sort of stuff. Once again,
It's just the look on his face was interesting. I don't.
Poor
anybody.
I just the poor guy can't. You know what I was laughing about? So we did the practice broadcast for Xfinity back when the clash happened. We basically commented on the clash, and if you're watching it on YouTube here, you can see, or Spotify, you'll see this facial expression by Jeff Gordon that Josh has pulled up.
Just pause it.
I made a joke that Bowman was the fourth running in the clash at one point of the Hendrick drivers, and I said, "Hey, is it too early to speculate he's probably out of this ride right now?" I was like, but it was like the point being is the poor guy just like, unless he's no matter what that guy does,
he gets no love.
He gets no love, and he's on such a hot seat. And it's like he obviously is a top 10 Cup level driver who on a great
wouldn't
day,
have made it that long.
He wouldn't have made this long, and obviously has won races and won some really difficult races and puts himself in position with 7 laps to go to win a Cup race at one of the more difficult places against one of the best at that specific racetrack. Yes, we're dissecting and Monday morning quarterbacking his, move here to go to the wall and hitting the wall, but he's at the pointy end of the top level of stock car racing in the world. So like we're dissecting minute little things. I don't think
easy to get caught up in criticism.
I don't think he's sitting. I don't think that moment right there, trying to hold off the best at running the wall there is, with just a couple laps to go, knowing that both of them have, either one wins, Hendrick gets a win on that day, is the day they're like, he's out. You can't hold off Kyle Larson at Homestead. If that was the case, everyone would be fired. From Hendrick Motorsports, you'd have no driver there. So anyway, Larson wins. He won the truck race on Friday night. He had the Xfinity race, which we'll dive into in the Xfinity section here in a little bit, in the bag until a late race caution, and obviously won the Cup race. So it is his house. Speaking of houses, Trackhouse, a little slow this past weekend. SVG was running around the 30s. Ross Chastain. You had Daniel Suarez, who was probably the most competitive of them, but spun getting on the pit road, was still able to rebound from that to finish. I think he finished top 20, maybe.
I think he was 19th or 18th.
19th or 18th. So a little bit of a struggle for the Trackhouse cars. I was chatting with Justin Marks about this and just, hey, man, curious what was going on there. And he said, it's just really funny because at Vegas, they were obviously very competitive. But you just have weekends like this in the Cup Series, to our point earlier about the parity of it all. It's just sort of off. And
just missed a little bit.
Yeah, just missed a little bit, and boom, there you are. So I don't think didn't sound like anything specific or anything, obviously, that was a glaring issue other than just, that's the NASCAR Cup Series. One week you could be in the top 5. The next week you can show up and be like, we're going to struggle to run top 25. And that is just the nature of how competitive it is.
Yeah.
No reason for an alarm, though. No alarm.
Okay. Interesting.
That's the sense I got. No reason for alarm. So, did you see this? Bubba Wallace, very competitive day for him. Led a lot of laps, was in contention there in stage 3. He gets a top 5. He, on the final lap, came on his radio and said, "I have a tire going down."
I heard that.
And then says, "I'm just joking with you
laugh.
guys." That did make me laugh.
I never really messed with that stuff, I don't think.
I couldn't do it.
My team.
I couldn't do it.
I would do it in the infield care center, though.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, when the doctor's like pushing you, he's like, "Does this hurt? Does this hurt? Does this hurt?" I'd be like, "Ooh." First time I did it, they like freaked out.
That's me. I'm surprised they didn't sit you out. Brutal. Well, that's everything for the Cup Series and from this past weekend that we'll dissect. We talked about the Xfinity Series. So Larson shows up to that, doesn't qualify great, but goes out early, which is always tough to qualify in the Xfinity Series because there's a lot of rubber on the racetrack. drives through the field very quickly, of course, and by stage 3, gets to the lead, gets to the wall, and gets out to a 16-second lead, lapping up to 6th place in that run. Was on pace to probably lap up to 5th, and a caution comes out, as they do, in that car cut its tire down off the wall and spun out. Sets up a late race restart. And I thought of you watching this, because if we want to be the Monday morning quarterbacks we are on this,
we can on this one.
We can on this one, because I'll let you take it from here, what you saw and what went down. But what do we always say about the restarts?
Go early, go often.
Yep.
This is because of NASCAR's restart zone and the way it is set up. You cross a line, and once you cross that line, then the control car is in control of the restart, right? And he can go once you cross that line. And then he only has exclusive control until the end of the restart zone. At the end of the restart zone, it's kind of free game. Now, to be fair, nobody really makes it to the end of the restart zone. But just, maybe I need to ask ChatGPT what the scientific, psychological explanation to this is, but it is literally in the best interest of the control car to go early, period. The earlier you go, the more leverage you have. So, like, it's not really that beneficial to play games or wait. And I'm not saying that Larson was playing games or waiting, but he waited just long enough. And it's two things. He waited just long enough that it caused confusion on his own pusher, right?
Yep.
And so then he got a push from Sam Mayer, and then it caused him to buzz his tires. Then he had to react, and then it was a whole mess, and Larson lost the race. When I said two things, here's the other point I want to make. I know Sam's driving a Ford right now, but Sam has trained with Kyle Larson, has studied the same film in the same room, right? Has studied the same prep documents, everything.
In the Josh Wise program at Chevy.
At Chevrolet in the program. I would even add to my prediction of this deal that Sam would have bet his life that Kyle Larson was going to go early.
Yep. And
so Sam was anticipating Kyle to go early and, was ready to jump, and Kyle just didn't go early. And it, on top of the fact that it is a fundamental, I think, that Kyle should have gone early, he had a guy behind him that probably was thinking the same thing. And yeah, it crossed him up, got sideways, cost him the race. And that one to me was 100% on Kyle, unless I could be told otherwise.
And that's exactly what I was thinking as I watched it. I was like, Sam Mayer has been in that Chevy program for a long time until he moved to HFT. He's been in those rooms and studied all the things you're talking about, and a lot of stuff I had heard about in the last couple of years and seen from drivers and teams and that sort of thing. And that was that all the analytics tell you to go early. And remember with Austin Dillon at Richmond, we talked about this. What he didn't do at that time was go early in that race last year in the restart zone. And we've talked about this many times where you want to even go as early as to put it in NASCAR's hands to call you out on it. Right.
Yeah. And Larson should, and this is one of the other reasons that Larson should have fired 5 feet before the line. Is like those cars, it's a really slick track. Even though they have sticker tires on, like you're gonna have wheel spin. You're gonna buzz the tires. Like if Kyle touches throttle 5 feet before the line, he could easily get away with it. NASCAR is not gonna call that. And so it's just that's to me, I think that is the strategy in that position as a control car. And until I see otherwise, I think that's the right strategy to use, or until NASCAR changes the rules or does something different.
It's been proven time and time again. And right then and there was the best proof. He lost that race by the car behind him anticipating he would go early, gets bumped at the wrong time as he tries to fire. It lights the rear tires up. He can't get the restart. Austin Hill and Justin Allgaier on the outside get major restarts. Not even really seriously impressive restarts, considering the outside was at a disadvantage all day. And we saw that in the Truck Series as well.
Think of it this way. Like, the worst thing, like, what you could be Kyle Larson and you could be coming to one to go, and you could be like, "Hey, tell my spotter to tell his spotter that I'm going at the line." The guy next to you, right? Like you could tell the guy next to you to be like, "I'm going at the first restart zone line." And like that's when I'm gonna go. And we can launch at the same time. And Kyle is still gonna have a little bit better advantage, right? And if
Yeah,
that
'cause
guy
the
goes
bottom
too
has more
early,
grip. Yep.
right? And NASCAR is watching, they're not watching the control car as much. They're watching the second car, right? Like if he jumps before the line, he's gonna get a penalty. And so it's like you could go as far as saying, I'm telling you as the control car that I'm going to go at the first line. So you could just plan on going with me. And he still would be better off than like trying to wait in the restart zone and play these games and end up getting, a push and spinning his tires.
That's a great point.
Can I ask you a question? Can you get cute like this in the Cup series and get away with it? But you go to the Xfinity series and these drivers are very hard coded and like go early, go often.
Well, they're all, I think that it's the same strategy in Cup or Xfinity. The Cup series, you might need to just be a little bit more precise and not jump the restart zone, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think you can wait in the restart zone, especially on a track that's a slick restart zone like that. Because if you have a ton of grip in the restart zone, I could see an argument for just waiting in the restart zone a little bit. And if you get a push, if you feel like a bump from Sam Mayer, then you just take off. But like on a track where there's tons of wheel spin and you got to have real good throttle control in the restart zone, just go early. Get it over with. Dover's another one that's like that. Where it's just like, go early. Get up high. Make sure you go downhill. As soon as you get to the restart zone, go.
Yep. Bristol. Same theory.
Isn't Dover where Jimmy did the same thing and resulted in the 20-car pileup on the restart?
Well, yeah, he got stuck in gear ever.
Yeah, like stick around and then end up.
He might have gotten stuck in gear, but either way.
And it's funny, it's the double file restart deal that's so different than when we used to do single file, where in single file restarts back in the day, and it wasn't the restart zone particularly, you could play all sorts of games to the car behind you.
Because only one car mattered back then.
Exactly. And you could check it up.
Exactly.
And you could play all these games. But now it's not available. Your move is kind of hard coded and just going and giving and to your point, like there at Homestead, the outside line was at such a disadvantage in every start at the start and restart in the Truck Series and the Xfinity Series. It was obvious. There was a 2-car disadvantage in terms of like the launch that the bottom would get versus the top. And so, like, you don't even need to play games. You've got it won. I will say this. When you have a 16-second lead and suddenly have a caution and have to refire.
Don't overthink it.
No, I know. I'm not getting too far.
Saying I was finishing your sentence.
Oh, okay. Don't overthink it. But I'm saying to the point of, like, my God, he must have been half like, well, I'm just making laps. You know what I mean? And then suddenly gets put in this position of like, oh, I got to go. Oh, I got to like think through how to do this correctly because I could lose this race.
Now, I don't know if this was the case, though. I mean, and this is very typical of a Kyle Larson type deal, is he is so good on those long runs and so good at running the top and so dialed in and in the zone on doing that, it can actually be hard to fire off on a restart and be good on restart speed because your car is so well tailored for those long runs. Yeah. And he wasn't the strongest car on short runs.
No. In both series.
He never is. He
never
is.
All three series. Yeah, all three.
Yeah, it's hard to be with that package, right? So when he ran through a lot of the stages, and that's why, like, he was obviously fast in the Xfinity car to start the race and throughout the race, but like he truly didn't shine in the Xfinity car until stage 3 when you had 30, 40 laps on tires.
Yeah.
And that's because he's a long run type driver and that's a long run driving style.
Yep. Well, it did take away what would have been eventually what we saw on Sunday, a sweep, the first person to sweep since Kyle Busch has done it twice at Bristol. So apparently you have to be Kyle to want to do a sweep and get it done. And I feel like it's felt maybe a missed opportunity. I'm sure maybe he'll try again in the future because at that place, for sure, like if he's going to get it done, it's going to be there. But I just, that was one that got away. Massive for Justin Allgaier. Wins the Dash for Cash.
I know,
Also
that's a
wins,
big day.
Yeah, wins the race. That was his 6th time winning the Dash for Cash. $600,000 in bonus money that he's made in his time in Xfinity Series for the Dash for Cash. Pretty wild. I made the joke on TV that it's bought him a house, essentially. You're welcome. Pretty awesome for him. And just to go basically 2 in a row and to get that win, it wasn't simple either. He had to fight Austin Hill, which he did a great move down the front stretch into turn 1, where he did the idea side drafted and then just cut it down low, overdrove the corner a little bit. Now he got helped with Austin Hill getting on the splitter and getting tight, which Austin had struggled with in practice and in qualifying as well. But even if Austin Hill doesn't have that issue, he drove it in far enough. If you look where the 7 lands, he was probably going to clear himself anyway in the speed and how far he overdrove it into the corner. But it was the move to make, and it was perfection. He got it down to the bottom, and that car just went all the way up the track. It would have been a hell of a battle if Austin Hill would have stayed there. But I don't even think with the distance Austin was going to have to carry into turn 1 that he really was ever going to have a shot because of the way that Justin did that, which was it was perfection. And that is one of the more fun passes to make in a NASCAR stock car. It's turn 1 at Homestead, because you do what Justin did. And if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify, you would be able to see this. But as they're going through 3 and 4, they're side by side. They're going to come side by side down the front stretch. And I called this out on the broadcast because I just thought it's exactly what he's going to do, and it did it to perfection. But they side draft each other down the front stretch. He actually loses a little bit of momentum as they get turn 1, and then he just turns hard left and tons of speed. And then if you see where he ends up landing, it's about 2 to 3 grooves up the track because he had come in there so fast. So,
Yeah,
well
that's
done.
a good. I mean, that is in the student in me, says that is a perfect example of what we call reshaping the corner.
Mm-hmm.
He just took the ideal shape of the corner, the ideal shape of your car. If you're visualizing your car as like a line drawn around the racetrack through the corner, and it's like you're just taking it and moving it around the track to fit where you need to make speed to be able to make your pass. It's a really good move.
Well said. Well said. Way to make it technical.
Well, a well-trained move.
Thank you for redeeming yourself from earlier in our discussion.
Sorry.
Yeah.
What did Jeb Burton do after the race? Did he wreck?
Yeah, he wrecked coming off 4. He's up next to the wall. Poor Jeb. I was going to text him after this, but he gets it all sideways, and the car hooks on the left rear because they were all on old tires. I think he had done the wave around with a huge group because they'd lapped up to 6th place. So Jesse Love gets the free pass, and then 10 cars did the wave around. He's on old tires on the top side, and the car gets sideways off of 4. He's trying to get in the throttle, and it just sits on the left rear and goes hard in the outside wall, and then fires back across the track, hits the inside wall hard, and miraculously doesn't bring anyone else with him, which I thought was incredible. He crosses across 10 cars. So poor Jeb tore the thing up. I think he finished 15th or 16th. So not the finish he wanted in that sense, either in result or in terms of having a wrecked race car on the last corner of the last lap. A little other Xfinity Series news. Jay McMurray got a nice surprise today at Dirty Mo Media. They had him in for door bumper clear and surprised him that Carson Kvapil and the Bass Pro Shops one car is going to run the paint scheme that he won the Daytona 500 with in 2010 and the Brickyard race in that year with Ganassi. And in this little video he actually references how much we've made fun of him during the broadcast. If you listen to the Xfinity races closely over this year, that whenever the Bass Pro Shops #1 car is there, he goes, "That #1 Bass Pro Shop Chevy," because it just rolls off the tongue. And I may be the culprit, the one who's made fun of him. I brought it up.
It's muscle memory.
But he does it in a way that's like, you have said that 1,000 times. It's so perfect. It's so smooth. And I just love it every time he does it. So sometimes I'll see it, I'll point to it and nudge him and be like, come on.
Say it. Let's hear it.
Say it. Let's hear it. #1 Bass Pro Shop Chevy. So now he gets a free pass at Darlington. One other thing, I said I'd mention the top. So Yeah, we did unveil the new remote studio for the CW at NASCAR Productions, which actually the studio is really kind of cool. It's like this most insane screen I've ever seen. It's similar to the screens that you have at the racing simulators that we have, the OEM simulators that kind of wrap around a whole room, except it's not a green screen. It's actually like a screen. It's a real screen. And it does all this crazy technology, and there's a lot of cool things that they'll end up being able to put on this deal. And it's by far the biggest screen I've ever seen. And it does, like, there's a lot of cool tech in terms of what the computers do and what they can show behind us and around us and that sort of stuff. So I'd say in that sense, it's kind of the highest TV tech available at this time. So there will be a lot of cool things there. But one of the things I saw a lot of conjecture about was people being upset that we were remote, right, in doing this race. I will say, from being in the broadcast booth, we do have more info at our disposal than what we would have on a normal broadcast from a booth at the track, right? Now we don't have the window in front of us that we can look outside of. I will say that it's very few and far between that you use that. It actually, in a lot of respects, there's two different thought processes on this. People like when someone calls something out that's not on the TV screen because they're watching it through a window. Some people don't. I personally have been of the type that doesn't really have a major opinion on it. I did do it at Daytona. If you listen back to that race, I call out something that, but there was actually someone hitting me on the shoulder is the reason I noticed it when Chris Wright was running into Josh Blicky under green flag pit stops. I do use it at times to kind of tell where people are over green flag stops and that sort of thing. But we do have probably more cameras and more technology at our disposal in terms of the booth design that they have at that place. And I can say that this booth was designed sort of from the brainchild of Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, the Racing Insights guys who were with us at every booth around the country. And it is probably like the best designed one that you would have. Like, if you had this design at the racetrack, this is what you would want. And the last thing I'll say, and I'm not going to make too many opinions on it, but I will say, like, doing the race feels no different, which was surprising to me. Like, I really did think, okay, it'll be hard to be.
When you're done, did you feel like you were like in the metaverse when you like left the booth and you're like, wait a second, I'm not in Miami?
It's a little bit of that. Yes, there's so that is a weird thing. It is a little weird because you're kind of like in this room, this darker room with all these screens, and you realize that, like, oh, for the last 6 hours I've just been like inside, whereas a booth with the windows, you at least have sunlight, right? Or like outside light, which is a little bit of a mental shift. But in terms of like the actual broadcasting, doing the race, there's no difference. Literally none. Like, and if anything, the difference is you have more stuff at your disposal. There's more technology, more things we can use right there in terms of like where cars, what's the pit sequence, that sort of stuff that's actually just not possible to put in a temporary booth that you would have at the racetrack. So that part is actually one of the things I found easier. Like, there was times as Larson's lapping through the field, I could tell I had more info, and if you got into green flag stops, I had more info as to where cars were and what they were doing through the cycle than I would having been in person. So that was a little interesting to me. And I didn't expect that, I'll be honest. So, I think there's a good mix out there if you're going to do this. There's obviously so many sports around the world that are doing this. My girlfriend works on the Olympics for NBC. They do a lot of that with this for the Olympics. There's a lot of other pro sports that have gone to this, thought process and theory of having some remotes. For us, I think this year it will come out to be around half are on the road, half are sort of remote. So, which is a good mix for some, for the team that's working on this series for 33 races. I'd say it's a nice mix in that sense as well. To be obviously at home. Obviously, our production team has primarily been there at NASCAR Productions anyway. So it was actually nice for us to be in the same place as them for the first time this year. So I think there's a lot of people who get very upset about it, but the same way we do this show, you and I are never together. Do people notice? Do they care?
We're never together.
That's sad. I like a mix because it is definitely nice to start the season off, be able to go in the garage constantly, that sort of thing, build relationships. Yeah. But otherwise, I mean, I text and talk to all these people anyway all week, so it's sort of like there's not a lot that's gleamed. But for all the people freaking out, I just thought I would let you know, as the guy actually doing it in terms of the broadcast. For me personally, there is no difference. So we'll make it the best we can. All right. Let's
talk about sporty cars.
Yeah, should we talk about other things?
Sure.
Open wheels. Not sporty cars, open wheels. All right. So the big F1 thing, we referenced it at the top. Liam Lawson gets the big opportunity from VCarb or Visa Cash App RB Racing Bulls, whatever you want to call it, to get to the top premier ride at Red Bull Racing as Max Verstappen's teammate. In 2 weeks into the season, he has been incredibly slow and not up to snuff in what they want. So much so, there's been all these rumors that Yuki Tsunoda is going to now replace him, as much as Ralf Schumacher today saying that he has it on, clear authority that that's going to happen for Japan, which would be a nice place for them to do that. Give Yuki Tsunoda in front of his home crowd the opportunity to be in potentially what's a faster car. Max Verstappen has fired back at this by saying he doesn't believe that would be a good choice because, if anything, Liam Lawson would do better at the Red Racing Bulls car because it's an easier car to drive. And this is a theory we've heard. Yeah, and a lot of people have talked about this idea that Max Verstappen likes a very pointy front end, a car that makes the rear very light on entry. But even going a little deeper, I've been having some conversations with some people who were texting with Max this weekend, and I'm not going to say who, but nonetheless, this is kind of confirmed that Max's thoughts are that this has already been a very hard car to drive for the last couple of years, and it's gotten even harder as they're trying to keep up with McLaren. And the only way to create more speed out of the car they have in the current design of it is to literally make it even more front end positive and make it even edgier in the rear of the race car. And that he has the experience in the last couple of years of doing this and understanding that, and obviously has the ability to balance that. And that's why he's like, I don't think you've seen Liam Lawson's best. I don't, this car is so particularly difficult to drive, which we saw as Sergio Perez being so far off for the last couple of years. So does the Red Bull hatchet come down here? Is the meat grinder shop that they have of processing drivers rear its ugly head once again, and Liam Lawson is cast aside after 2 races? Or do they give him more leeway here to get up to speed with this race car?
I don't know. I think they probably come down on him, but I don't know if that just. I don't know. I don't know what happens. I mean, that doesn't have to mean that whoever takes his place is just automatically gonna outdo what he's doing by a wide margin. If everything that Max is saying is true, that's just all of the signs that you need to know for finally, if it's not obvious already, that the Red Bull dominance era is over.
Yeah.
He did win this weekend, but
no. Oscar Piastri.
What
weekend you living in?
Why did I think that he won this weekend?
No, he didn't. But he was there in the top 3. He was battling the McLarens were really fast in the actual race. So even Lando Norris had a brake issue with the last couple laps, and the team was asking him to back off. He actually, as they're asking him to back off, he goes faster than Oscar Piastri and then loses a gob of time and almost lost enough time.
The reason I say what I was saying is because it's like, I don't know if anybody in the most dominant cars has to say that their car is really hard to drive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, first of all the cars are hard to drive. That's racing. You're taking it to the limit. Nobody out there is having a cakewalk. But when you're just killing it, like Lando Norris right now, like the McLarens, I think that those cars probably drive better than they've ever felt at an effort level that they're more comfortable with than they've ever been. And they're in a good spot, right? And so, Red Bull finally being challenged for the first time in years is like they're having to go for quick and easy ways to find speed, right? They're trimming the cars out. They're making them edgier. And yeah, they have a flagship driver in Max Verstappen who knows those cars, and the evolution of those cars over a decade, longer than a decade. So he can say, yeah, I'm running third, but I'm driving my ass off to do it, right? I'm uncomfortable. I don't like what I feel, right? We're trying to find speed, and it's not working, and it's making the cars uncomfortable. He can do that. right? But that's like Red Bull is that just shows that Red Bull is like veered off in this wrong direction, where now they're hacking their way into finding speed.
Yeah. It just doesn't make enough total downforce, to compete without having too much drag. And therefore, you're not creating enough grip. And the McLarens are doing that, and they're faster. So that's when you start to try. It's like when you, in the stock car world,
it's like, we got to do something.
Yeah,
so take the drag out.
Yeah, well, have you ever had you've had cars that are like a little down on motor or something, and you go to a place that's like a Vegas or something, or maybe when it was a higher grip and less tire fall off. But I'm thinking of like new repaved place, and you're like, just trim it out. I'll just try to hold on to it.
Yeah, well, because it's like otherwise you're just accepting the fact that you're going to be slower.
Exactly.
Right. And so for an organization like that, it's like the fact that they're putting their driver in a spot where it's like he knows that the car's uncomfortable. He knows, they know that they're taking risks in that way. That it's like, these things are edgy. They're not fun to drive. It's because they've accepted the fact that to have a decent driving car is a 5th place car.
Yep.
So it's like, well, the only way to win is to trim it out. And we'll just keep working on ways to make it drivable, trimmed out like that. So that's a dangerous, tough spiral they're in.
Here's why I would keep Liam right now. Do they really, really believe that if this is the case and your number one guy who has won the championship for you multiple times is basically telling you this is a really hard car to drive, then why do you think Yuki Tsunoda is going to be much better? Because you picked this guy because he basically was as good as Yuki last year in filling in or, jumping in. And therefore, it's like, one,
didn't we have the same conversation this time last year? No, we had this same conversation this time last year with who was the Red Bull driver at the time that was getting fired?
Daniel Ricciardo.
No, it was
Sergio Perez.
No, it was not Red Bull, but it was the RB team, Toro Rosso or whatever.
Daniel Ricciardo. Visa Cash.
It wasn't Helmut Marko. I don't know. They weren't they firing a guy this time last year? And I was like, I don't know. He just went to a month ago that he was your guy.
That was Daniel Ricciardo. Yeah. No, you got it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It was like a month ago. He's your guy. Went to the Christmas party.
Yep.
High-fived.
Woo! You're the boy.
Yeah, we did all of our research. We did like a month ago. This guy, and all of a sudden, 2 races into it, you realize he's not. Is that a reflection on Liam, or is that a reflection on Red Bull?
That's gonna be my point. It's like this just discredits your whole process, your decision making, and for the way they get out in the media, and they're basically like, we have choices to replace him now. 1 or 2 races in, just boggles my mind.
The whole landscape changed.
It boils my blood that it's like, wait, time out. Would you not just say like, hey guys, hey Liam, we support you, man. You got to figure this thing out. This is a tough car to drive. We get it. Like, unless there's some like severe personal issues going on, and like the guy is, showing up half drunk every week.
Sleeping with Christian Warner's girlfriend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like to that point, it's like, okay, if that's the case, I get it. But otherwise,
not Warner.
Time out. Like, let's give the guy a little leeway for a moment, and give your process some time to even prove itself and your decision making. Otherwise, it just looks like, I don't know. It looks schizophrenic. It looks, like they just were like on a whim. These things are decided, and I don't know. It looks unprofessional.
You're all listing things that Red Bull is just really good at doing. Looking schizophrenic and on a whim.
That's true. Very true. Jack Doohan received 4 penalty points for basically blocking and making late moves. He was trying to hold off Isaac Hadjar late in the race and was doing what I thought was a good job. The stewards decided otherwise and said these are too many issues, too many late blocks. I don't mind it. I say let the boy do what he wants to do.
Let him block. I think they should put steel bumpers on the front of him.
Yeah, hell, let him hit. You know what I mean, man? He racked up 4 penalty points, 12 are a suspension. So he's going to have to tone that down a little bit to make it through the season. Already some rumors that he could be being replaced by Franco Colapinto by the European leg of the season. This was already rumored before the season even started. We talked about Flavio Briatore being in love with Franco Colapinto and all over his Instagram in some sort of weird love story. So we'll see where that goes. But one other thing, you remember last year they announced Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari. Immediately I said, he's going to win an 8th world title, and they're going to sell a bajillion of dollars worth of merch. He did win his first race for Ferrari, a sprint race this past weekend. I just want to say it's happening. Just watch. McLaren may be fast now. Red Bull's obviously faltering. Ferrari is going to be right there to pick up the pieces. 8th world title. Let's go.
You still think he can do it?
I think he can do it. Hell yeah. They did get disqualified from the race. Double disqualification for Ferrari, which does not look good for me. Leclerc was underweight, and Lewis Hamilton had too much wear on his FIA legality plank underneath the race car. It was the amount of the wear being over was the width of a credit card, essentially, which is exactly what the left rear of my race car was at Daytona. Funny enough. Yeah. So Pierre Gasly was also disqualified for being underweight. So that seemed to be a trend this past weekend. Not sure why that happened, but some people missed it.
I know why. What they did is they fueled based off of previous races and expected a safety car. And so they were underfueled. And they talked about this early on in the broadcast, and no safety car ever came. So the likelihood is probably just not enough gas in the car.
Wow. That's wild.
That's the tolerances, tight tolerances. I was going to assume it was something to do with fueling level and underestimating, or either using too much fuel because of race pace, or to your point, no safety car. So that makes sense. Thanks, Josh. Let's talk IndyCar real quick. They went to the Thermal Club. First time this track has been a points paint event. Last year it was one of those like all-star style events. Had a lot of people text me about this weekend because it's not really a place you want to see IndyCar at. And here's what I'm going to say. Thermal looks impressive. It sounds impressive, and people buy $5 million homes around it, but it is a club racetrack. And it's very obvious with them running around there that it's a club racetrack. And the difference between a club racetrack and a pro level racetrack is club racetracks are made with the idea of rich dudes showing up with a Ferrari, not much experience, and being able to blast around there and maybe not hit much or not being put in positions of hitting things. There's a lot of configurability to those racetracks in terms of being able to have all sorts of different courses. So there's some, variability to the course. And so you don't always show up and drive the same course all the time and that sort of thing. Whereas pro level racetracks are, one, either designed to create entertaining racing, or two, have been there for a long period of time and have a lot of history and have famous corners that, just seem to be difficult places no matter what type of race car is running around it. And to give you a stark example close to home, you have Lime Rock, which is a famous racetrack here in America, in Connecticut, an old classic racetrack from the 50s that has not changed and has been the same tough racetrack that's had tons of pro racing, versus just an hour and a half away is Monticello Motor Club, which is a club racetrack, no pro racing. It is designed to be a club racetrack. Lime Rock is tougher to be a club racetrack because it is a pro racetrack. That's why it has pro racing. That the IndyCar going to Thermal, when you watched it, just felt like they're at a club racetrack. There's not a lot of fans in attendance because it's for the idea for the club. And someone gave me the best analogy for this. This is like when you have a seriously wealthy person who, for their daughter's Sweet 16, gets that famous singer to show up. It's cool for the people in attendance at the party, but it's definitely not cool for that artist's fans. Doesn't do anything for them. IndyCar was the famous singer showing up to this club. They also had the TV compound lost power for a while due to breaker popping, which, the infrastructure of some of these club tracks is not meant for this. I get why they do it. Obviously, it's cool in terms of being in that market, and it is cool in terms of, probably a lot of the wealthy people involved in that getting closer to the IndyCar series, and maybe their next team owner comes out of there, or their next sponsor, so on and so forth. but it isn't cool for the TV. And I think that's a problem for it's not a place IndyCar needs to be racing.
Interesting. You're saying it kind of lacks that character, which
Yeah, none.
The club tracks, the club tracks of this day and age that have been built to be club tracks do lack that character, right? And I'll probably rattle off an unfair list, but it's just like Thermal Club, Spring Mountain, like you said. I don't know about Monticello, how old Monticello is, but like the purpose-built club tracks of late, they do lack that character.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. They do, and but they're not supposed to have character. Like they're designed. It's the same, in golf, right? You have golf clubs, which are easier courses or designed in a way to allow lots of amateur golfers to show up and hit a ball around, and their kids and their wives and that sort of thing. And then you have PGA Tour level golf courses, which are incredibly difficult and designed to be that difficult. And it's a really rare thing when you get amateurs that out there that, possibly get the chance to play on those. Like that's the same thing with racetracks, because they're the closest thing in terms of pro sports to a variable surface and a variable playing field. Pro racetracks are purposely, designed to be entertaining for the TV product and that sort of thing, or they're just incredibly difficult racetracks with lots of character. The idea of these club tracks is not that. Like, you don't want that. That wouldn't be a successful club track. You want to be able to have a lot of members with varying levels of skill and different types of cars show up and get the full use out of those cars and not hit a barrier and not be put in danger, but have that feeling of like, "Ooh, I could be Lewis Hamilton next week." And it's like, no, you won't, but we're going to give you that feeling and sell you the idea that maybe you could be.
Do you? What's your thoughts on the Thermal Club when it was was just an exhibition race versus a points paying race? Is that better in your mind, or are you still wholeheartedly against that idea of the exhibition versus the points?
I think pro racing at club tracks makes no sense. So yeah, it's just against it. It looks unprofessional. It doesn't look that cool. And I don't know. I think it I have a lot of respect for IndyCar and I love IndyCar, but I think they have a really cool time period right now and they have a lot of opportunity, and the street courses and the idea of what they're doing in Arlington, it sounds super cool, and it's like that's their bread and butter. Don't do this. This doesn't make any sense to me. So I would say no more club tracks. Before we go, Landon, let's rip through the money lap, or the money lap, but we just did that. The PR lap. We said we'd give some shout out to some people out there on Spotify. Mika just here said, this show is honestly so good. 2 thumbs up. Not just 1.
Solid.
Yeah. Yeah. On YouTube, we had some nice comments. Mr. Tom 24345 said, "You all are making me want to watch F1. I never thought that would happen." He actually said y'all, which then I know, yeah, he's a new F1 convert.
Well, let us know if you actually do. But until then, we're glad that we're making you want to watch it.
And Mark Evans 4632 said, "You guys are all capitals awesome. We love y'all, and the content is always, quote, on point and real." Not sure the last part was, but all right. And real. That's what they're trying to say. Also, we had no new reviews on Apple Podcasts. That is a shame. We're at 214. We want to get to 300. If you give us a 5-star review, you get on this show. We only have 5-star reviews, so everyone who has done it has gotten on this very show. Oh no. Landon.
Yeah, we had a problem.
Yeah, he has his announcement here, apparently, at 18:51, which is, I guess, in 30 minutes or so. Is that 6:51, Josh?
Yep.
Yes, that is.
Kyle Busch has his announcement, so he had to leave. Don't know what it is. Hope it's great. Hope it's big.
What do you think it is?
That it's going to be the new Fetty Wap song instead of 1638.
I don't think I think it's literally like, what did I say? He's just announcing that like him and Brexton are gonna race in the same class at Millbridge one night or something this summer.
Yeah.
That's
I think it's a throwback announcement. Throwback season announcement.
That does make
There you
sense. Being a throwback.
There you
I don't think he's retiring. I don't think it's anything groundbreaking.
Everybody is on high alert on Kyle Busch right now. Poor
We
guy.
are.
He's
We're
like,
on
just
high
let
alert."
me tease a stupid throwback announcement. Dang it.
If it is big, we'll discuss it on Wednesday. As you may or may not know, we now do 2 shows a week. We're also going to have a special guest that is not Kyle Busch from the Xfinity Series on Wednesday. So looking forward to it. Will we see you there, Landon?
Maybe.
Yeah, you'll be there. You'll be there.
I'll be there Wednesday.
You have no
I'll join.
choice.
If you guys want me to, I'll join.
You'll join. You'll join. All right. Thanks for watching and listening. Peace. Thank you so much for watching and listening to the Money Lap. If you like this show, please like and subscribe to us on YouTube. Share it with friends. We want to spread the word of great motorsports shows, of which we're somewhere up and around there. I'm not exactly sure where, but nonetheless, you can also reach out to us anytime on across social media or at our website, themoneylap.com, or at our email, friends@themoneylap.com. And of course, you can always leave us a review. 5 stars gets you on this very show. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Goodbye.